Zoro finally takes on Swordmaster Elder Noosjuro. Noosjuro's supreme grade blade is revealed, Vegapunk's broadcast is cut short, Blackbeard, Dragon, and more make an appearance, so make sure to stay tuned for this insane chapter. As a big Zoro fan, you know I'm hyped to get into this one. Now, channel Parking Within and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece reviews like this one and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece videos and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So we left off last chapter with York concluding that the special transponder snail they're looking for has to be under the protection of the Iron Giant, the one who apologized to old Joy Boy for not being able to effectively help him, but don't worry, he will be able to effectively help the new era Joy Boy, as we're going to see in this chapter. And the last chapter also ended up with Vegapunk wondering why the Roger pirates who found out the truth didn't act on it. A drunken, nostalgic Dark King Silver's Rayleigh was getting more drunk and telling Vegapunk that he talks too much. He said, "Don't be a fool. Us old folks should keep our secrets. Don't rob the young ones of all the fun. Right, Roger?" End quote. And based on the rest of the story, I think it's pretty clear that Oda agrees with Rayleigh. And so, unfortunately, it means Vegapunk won't tell us all we want to know. He'll just wet our beaks, since that's all Oda would want too, but more on that later. Many of the remaining big reveals will no doubt be made through the Straw Hat's journey and not through an old guy's monologue. After all, I'm sure Oda doesn't want it to feel like your friend is explaining One Piece to you instead of you getting to experience it with the actual Straw Hats. So that brings us to this chapter called Mo. M.O. according to this translation, and we'll see if Viz decides to translate it differently. Nevertheless, the title will make sense once we get to that point in the chapter. So to no one's surprise, we get more reactions as Vegapunk continues his speech. We get some pretty hype reactions though. We start with Hachinosu, aka Pirate Island, where some pirates are being pirates and want to now go search for treasures under the sea. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense now actually, since we know that most of what was the land surface before is now underwater, meaning there must be tons of gold and treasure that was hidden, so to speak, by the great rise in water level. We also see 3 of those pirates in Hachinosu, and believe it or not, they are Krieg, Gin, and Pearl. Luffy defeated Krieg during chapter 66 of the manga. That chapter in the original Japanese was released in 1998, if you can believe it, so it's been about 26 years since then. And now, all of a sudden, Oda proves to us that he hasn't forgotten these guys either. What's more is that they made it to Hachinosu, so whether you like them or not, they didn't give up and made it successfully this far after Mihawk messed them up so badly last time. And I have to say though, in retrospect, they got incredibly unlucky with Mihawk as an enemy so early on, and as a result, they definitely made the Grand Line seem more dangerous than it probably was. Obviously, most people aren't going to run into one of the most dangerous fighters in the world right off the bat, but it is possible, and that's what they proved. Anyways, Krieg and Gin are walking among other pirates in the background of the panel. Pearl is with the group that want to go search for treasures under the sea. Krieg has long hair now and is wearing part of his armor. We can see his shoulder plates with his Jolly Roger. And this is why One Piece is so special and why the world of One Piece always feels so real and alive. Who else would work so hard to follow up with every character like this? Even one some of us haven't thought about for 26 years. And genuinely, I love these moments. I like to see what these characters are up to, probably because Oda does a good job of balancing these moments with exciting developments and action in the main story too. We then cut to Mont Blanc Cricket and the Saruyama Alliance. They are in their ship getting ready to dive and find more romance undersea. Another thing that makes more sense now with all of this rising sea level stuff. And of course, this is not romantic love, but romance in the sense of a quality or feeling of mystery, excitement, and remoteness from everyday life. The same kind like from chapter 1 called Romance Dawn that got this whole thing started. One Piece is all about this type of romance. We then cut to the Marine Hospital where sword members are resting. They're injured but don't look too bad. Kobe is on the bed, but he's conscious. Good seeing him, and he'll definitely have big shoes to fill now after Garp sacrificed himself for him. Drake has returned from Wano Kuni 2. Kujaku says he asked to be left alone, so he's currently healing in a private room. Prince Grus says Vegapunk's message will lead to some very troubling conclusions, while Kujaku says it's our time to act now, end quote. This is a pretty hype group, and I look forward to seeing more from them, but they better be going after Blackbeard or corruption in the government or something like those things. I definitely don't want to see them getting in the way of the Straw Hats. A Luffy/Kobe team up now, that would be awesome. We then cut to Smoker and he's riding his billower bike on the sea. Who knows, this kind of stuff could be foreshadowing that Smoker could become a full-fledged admiral one day, since they have been associated with funny and unique ways of traveling across the sea like this. He definitely will need to show progress power-wise if he's ever going to make that happen. And speaking of that, I would love to see him in action now and see what he's capable of after all this time. Smoker asks Tashigi via snail where she is, and she tells him that she is at the Marine Hospital. Vegapunk's message continues. He says he's arriving to the final part of his message, since if he says any more, it will just be theories. That's actually pretty exciting, and hey, whatever happens from here on out, it's nice that at least most of the message got through. But we'll get back to that in a little bit, because unfortunately, as I alluded to in the beginning of the video, he doesn't get through the whole message. The Frontier Dome barrier is shut down, so Nami's group is ready to set sail. We are close to getting off Egghead right now, and you can feel it. The pieces are all falling into place. And then the moment we've all been waiting for happens. Jinbei and Zoro finally arrive, but suddenly, Swordsman Master Elder Nusjuro runs ahead of them, and he is about to slash the Thousand Sunny ship. One slash for him, and you can bet it would be hard to recover. In an awesome team effort, Jinbei throws Zoro using a new technique called Fishman Jujutsu, Kataguruma Shoulder Wheel, and Zoro uses his attack, Nitoryu, aka two-sword style Rashomon, to block Nusjuro's attack. I don't have to say that even blocking this beast's attack is an achievement in and of itself. And it might be useful to think about why actually Oda chose Rashomon here, other than the fact that it is a powerful move. Of course, Rashomon was arguably the grandest and most famous gate in Kyoto, but also it could be a reference to Akira Kurosawa's movie of the same name. This is a director who's pretty much always mentioned in conversations about the greatest director of all time. That movie specifically is about how you can't know the truth and how different people's versions of the same events are different depending on their perspectives. It's similar to how we will probably never know what exactly happened during that void century that Vegapunk is talking about. We will just have to settle for the closest we can get, different perspectives or vantage points on what happened. That's how history is after all. But Rashomon also ends on a hopeful note nonetheless, favoring Luffy/Straw Hat philosophy compared to that of the elders who think other humans are inconsequential insects who don't matter. It's pretty cool if you think about it. It's like Zoro stopping Nusjuro's attack, but at the same time combating his negative philosophy with one of hope. And that reminds me that I gotta binge watch all of Kurosawa's movies one of these days. I've been meaning to do that for years now. But back to these two, Zoro uses his Sandai Kitetsu and Enma swords to block Nusjuro. Black lightning and even fire appear when the swords clash. But Zoro notices something when he sees Nusjuro's sword. He says, "Eh? Kitetsu?" Which is big. We all should know the story of the Kitetsus by now. The first Shodai Kitetsu was the best. It was the Supreme Grade sword, which is a big deal since there are only 12 Supreme Grade blades in the world. We don't know all of the 12, but the ones that we do know are as impressive as you can get. We're talking about Mihawk's blade Yoru, Whitebeard's blade Murakumogiri, and Pirate King Roger's blade Ace along with Shodai Kitetsu. Then Nidai Kitetsu was made second. Not quite as good, but still one of the 21 great grade swords. We saw it in Wano, and Luffy even used it in battle. Not properly, obviously, but still. Then there's Sandai Kitetsu, the one made third, and like the others, it's considered a cursed blade or sword. It's of a still lower grade than the second one, but still a graded sword. It is, of course, in the possession of Zoro and has been since it almost cut off his arm in Logtown. This is actually the only current Zoro blade that is not at least a great grade sword. He has 2 of the 21 great grade swords in Wado Ichimonji and Enma. So if you're looking at it like that, this is the one most in need of being upgraded. And I think it would be so cool if by the end he has not 1 but 3 Supreme Grade blades. There's speculation that Zoro could turn Enma and even Wado Ichimonji into Supreme Grades because they're so close to it anyways, but I can't really see it happening with Sandai Kitetsu, the third and worst of the Kitetsus. That brings us to the significance of him saying Kitetsu here. People have noticed that Nusjuro's sword handle was similarly designed to both of the prior revealed Kitetsus. So this isn't coming out of the blue, but the confirmation is a big deal nonetheless. We now know that it has to be the Supreme Grade Kitetsu. I know that some people think Zoro might even take on Nusjuro after Mihawk, but I don't see that happening personally. Although I'm not saying they'll finish their fight here, obviously, it is at least a possibility that when they do eventually fight to the end, Zoro may take the Supreme Grade Kitetsu. And although it is fitting for one of the clearly demonic elders to have the strongest cursed blade. It will also make perfect sense for Zoro, who calls himself the king of the underworld. I for one would love to see Zoro using the Shodai Kitetsu in his final fight against Mihawk, but let me know what you think in the comments. But long rant about the Kitetsus aside, Zoro and Noosjuro are blown back by the impact of their attacks. Jinbei grabs Zoro and Zoro shouts for Nami's group to take the Thousand Sunny off. In other words, what's being said here is he wants them to set sail on it. He says Jinbei and me will jump on the ship later. Gotta say, loving the Jinbei and Zoro dynamic lately. It's almost like Jinbei is a babysitter directing the insane power of Zoro in this or that direction as needed, because we all know Zoro is terrible with directions. We then cut to Elbaf's ship and we see many new giants fighting against Marines. Vice Admirals arrive to the fight as well. Vice Admiral Bluegrass blows a hole in Elbaf's ship with Sea Beast weapon beam. Vice Admiral Doll takes down Kashi using an attack called Rock and Roll Blaster. So although I'm not very concerned about the threat of Vice Admirals here, it is definitely looking worse currently for the Giants than it is for the Straw Hats. We then see Luffy and he is back in normal form. Another big sign, if you ask me, that we're close to being out of here. I don't see Luffy transforming yet again, but who knows, we'll see. Dory and Broggy are with Luffy and they're all near the shore now. The two giant captains tell the Elbaf ship to take off too. Luffy wonders where Warcury went because he stopped chasing them. Now the big deal here is that Saturn, Mars, Peter, and Warcury are all surrounding the ancient giant robot that should have the special transponder snail that they are looking for. The elders realize it's the robot that attacked Marijoa 200 years ago. But wow, it's as I thought, Vegapunk's speech served as a huge distraction. Not one, but 4 elders have come to the robot to stop the broadcast. What does that mean? Well, probably that there's now an open window for the ships that are already taking off to escape. Again, not surprising since I did see it going down like this, but still happy with the way it's gone down. I think it makes the most sense. For now, Vegapunk's message continues as the elders leap on the ancient giant robot. Vegapunk says finally, I would like to leave a message for those around the world with a D in their names. Warcury says, why you? And we all know how much they hate knowledge of the D, to the point where they made Gold Roger, and want to hide Luffy's D as well. When Vegapunk says the part about the D, we see Dragon giving us the ever-satisfying ... This guy and Emu should just get in a room and we can have an entire chapter of just back and forth ... It would be awesome. Sabo says Ace and Luffy's names since they both had D's in them. You might remember when they were all kids and talking about that. Kobe thinks of Luffy and Vice Admiral Garp, who had the D too. Marshal D. Teach, aka Blackbeard, as one of the D says, clearly intrigued. Beppo thinks of his captain, Trafalgar D. Waterlaw, as Vegapunk is about to give this information that we would all love to hear. As he says, among you guys, there is buzz, buzz. So that that is where the title for the chapter comes from. It comes from what Vegapunk was about to say before the broadcast was successfully cut off. So yeah, that buzz, buzz, that's what that was. So yeah, we got teased real good by Oda. The translator also clarifies all this by noting that Mo is the last Japanese character that appears before Vegapunk's message is cut off, and that character is the same that appears in the chapter title. And yes, some people are furious that Oda did this to us, but at the same time, come on. I would agree if the broadcast stopped before we heard anything good, and if it didn't serve a purpose, and if it didn't take a Vegapunk to finally figure it out where the transponder sail was. But as things stand, I think we don't have much to complain about. We know that Oda feels like Rayleigh, that the young generation needs to figure things out the fun way through their adventure and not just be handed down the information from the older generation. We also did learn crazy things, to be fair, like that most of what used to be the Earth is underwater now, and that it looks like the rest will be underwater before long too. Also, and most importantly, the broadcast served a very important purpose, like I expected, of distracting the elders in big time. Not even I expected as much as 4 of them to go after the ancient robot, giving our guys a believable escape route. For all these reasons, the broadcast wasn't for nothing. It clearly served multiple purposes, including the most important one of allowing for escape, so I'm definitely happy with it, while of course still looking forward to finding out that oh so intriguing secret about those with a D in their names. Anyways, the broadcast stopped because the ancient giant robot is blown into the air by Warcury's attack and then it falls to the ground. And he's obviously a bad guy, but props to Warcury. He did so well against the leaders of the enemies, and then he's the one to do this to the ancient robot too. Definitely stood out here even among the Gorosei. I guess the fact that he has like my least favorite yokai transformation didn't slow him down at all. Little parts of the robot are damaged, but notably it's still in one piece. And you know that's a big deal in this series. Mercury says, "Stop it already, Vegapunk." The signal finally does disappear, and people around the world are shocked. Vivi and Morgans are in shock as well. It's like the world was just given a huge cliffhanger and there's no next episode coming. At least for us, we know we'll find out the truth with the Straw Hats eventually. I don't know if we can say the same for all of these viewers. People react as you'd expect with, "Wow, it got cut off." Vivi says, "What was he trying to say? Is something hindering the reception?" In this final panel, York, the traitor punk, falls on her knees. She says, "Huff, huff, it stopped." And that is the end of this insane chapter. We're told there's no break next week, so we are jumping in and potentially entering the Elbaf arc, or at least the transition into it, and it could very well be in the next chapter where our guys are already in the clear. If Zoro and the others can just hold off Noosjuro long enough for the ships to build some momentum, we're in the clear. And after everything, I don't think that's a big ask, and I don't see any vice admirals being especially problematic to deal with when the captains are back. But let me know your thoughts about all this. Are you upset or are you hyped that we are clearly getting off Egghead and Elbaf is right around the corner? Let me know in the comments. If you did enjoy all the characters with the D's in this one and want to learn more about one shown in this very chapter, then you won't want to miss my all 16 Blackbeard Pirates and their powers explained video. Link on screen right now. Like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.